of this season's gig racing. There'd been inter-island races all week. Now, though, opposition from the mainland had come, as they'd done for 2 decades, for the grand finale. 2 days of racing interspersed with liberal amounts of liquid refreshment. 100 men, women and children from Newquay joined the Scillonians, 2 communities linked by one tradition, the gig. The weather was perfect for spectators, although a little rough water can make it all the more exciting and challenging for the crews. The courses are triangular or straight, and the finish line is the end of the quay on St Mary's. This year it's the newest gig, Islander, which is winning everything. But gigs a century old and more, like Bonnet, aren't far behind. And watching it all, the quiet but canny George Northey, Newquay fisherman, and the man who started gig racing back in the 50s.
Well, I think actually it's a good, clean sport. I mean, it's muscle power, and it's 50% really racing and 50% is the socialising. Like now, afterwards, they come and have a drink and have a good sing-song, which you probably heard. They'll sing a hard set. I suppose this weekend over here we've got nearly 100 people from Newquay.
How often do you beat them?
Well, 50-50, I suppose, really, taken over the years. We had a girls' crew that went undefeated for about 8 years that came over here. And then suddenly it was the Island's turn, which is fair enough. I mean, that's what sport's about, isn't it?
Ironically, it took a mainlander like George to save the Scilly gigs, a story he relishes.
When we came, we found the Bonnet in the Tresco pool, and we negotiated and bought her for about £36 in those days. And then we came over the next year and bought the Eagle, the Slipping. But the Shah was a different story. The Shah belonged to St Agnes. That's the island down here to the west. And there we couldn't know, one shareholder wouldn't part with his share. So our secretary, who was Mr. Gillisnose, he's gone now, but he did a lot of work for the gig. He suggested to Dick Legg, who was a shareholder, wouldn't part his share, that he'd give him a personal bottle of whiskey. And with the same, Dick Legg up in his hand and said, "You're sold, we've sold." So we gave him the whiskey, we bought it for about £33.
When no one noticed you were taking away their old gigs, were they bothered?
Well, in those days, there was no gig racing here, no interest, and time had lapsed. So what happened, we came over in 1963 because they found 1 or 2 other gigs, got the interest back, and started a row again.
They owe a lot to George, something the gig crews here know only too well.
I suppose from time to time we all choose to ignore our past or history, don't we? And then suddenly it's fashionable, everybody's interested in what used to be, and big programme of renovation goes on.
Well, I mean, George Northey came creeping over here, didn't he? Quietly brought up.
Yes,
these
he caught everybody unawares.
Took them back to Newquay.
Yeah, it'll never happen again.
You must be very embarrassed about that, really.
Well, we don't talk about it.
Gigs made excellent lifeboats, as many a mariner found in the rock-strewn waters of Scilly, but it wasn't their primary role.
Originally, they were built for pilotage. All sailing vessels entering the western approaches had, by law, to take on a pilot. The first pilot to the sailing vessel got the job. It was a very good source of income for the islands. This is really where the competitive edge came. If you could get your pilot out to the sailing vessel before I could, your shareholders got the money.
Throughout the 50s and 60s, the new sport of racing restored gigs caught on. Young men from each of the islands took up the challenge, and soon it became a thing for which Scilly has now become famous. The attraction of it all is that nothing has really changed except the technology of recording this glorious spectacle. And as regattas blossomed, so did the need for a new gig, the Islander.
The Islander is our newest gig. Really, this is built purely to represent the Isles of Scilly, both at home against foreign opposition, and to take away to the various regattas we get invited to. It was built really because we can't afford to spare one of our other gigs to send to the mainland. They're so busy, so much in use, that we need them here. So we've now got this superb gig built by Tom Chudleigh, which will show the rest of Cornwall what gig racing's all about.
She's very fast.
She's a beautiful boat. Yeah.
Winning how often?
I think at the moment she's undefeated in serious races.
Islander now joins an illustrious fleet which is kept carefully under cover when not in use. There's grown up a fierce loyalty to each island's gig.
St Martin's men rowing the Dolphin, and that's the best gig in the world to them. St Agnes has got the Shower, you know, each island's got its own boats, and to them they're the most important gigs.
Every hire boat going spare is packed as a thoroughly partisan crowd, lubricated as much if not more than the rowers themselves, heads out to Nut Rock.
Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
In the days of sail, coxswains knew from experience every movement of the tide round every rock in Scilly. Sadly, that knowledge, crucial in longer races which cover 3 miles, is being lost. Today they rely on steering a straight course and encouraging the muscle power at their command. But then this is a short race, just a mile to the quay, and among the crowd, the name Islander is heard the loudest. Again, she wins, whether it's her relative dryness, her shape, or simply the enthusiasm of the crew rowing the newest gig, who can tell.
But it's good. You can't beat this. When you come to a place like, you see what happens here. This is fantastic, really. Fantastic. And this, all these boats going out as well. It's really good. I should definitely get back.
Good. Well, shall I stop again at the pub? I'm sure you want to drink that.
Pretty sure.
You get the drinking and everything, and the songs in the pubs afterwards, and the mermaid and whatever. It's great.
In his chariot rides. Oh, my Lord, with 6 white horses side by side. Oh, my Lord, she's the lily of the
The joy of gig racing is its very lack of big prize money and publicity-seeking sponsorship. You won't find a John McEnroe among this lot. Tantrums aren't tolerated. It's sportsmanship in the true sense of the word, where the defeated crew is the first to say, well done.
Good, healthy pastime. It's what better way to sort of let off steam and all that pent-up anger or frustration. Go out and row, put all your effort into it, and after the race you come back and you're the best of friends and have a pint and sing song in the pub. It's wonderful.
But the social side seems very important.
Oh, it's as important, I think, as the actual racing, really. Or more. Well, possibly.